We're now joined, I'm pleased to say, by the Shadow Justice Secretary, that's Shabana Mahmood. Lots of questions. Thank you very much for being with us on the programme this morning. Firstly, I just want to talk about the protester. Is Keir Starmer OK?
Yes, I saw him actually not long before I rushed across to join you for this show. He's in great heart. You know, obviously it's not the start to a speech that anybody would have wanted, but I thought he dealt with it brilliantly well. He was just, you know, he kept his cool, he kept calm. He was determined to give that speech and not let anyone or anything derail him. And you know, he's very chipper, he's in good heart, as I say, and he's really pleased with how it went.
Yeah, he obviously dealt with it very well, but I guess there is a serious point here. You know, MPs regularly receive death threats. We've had these appalling cases of MPs being attacked. You know, is there an investigation going on into how long it took security service to respond?
Yes, I know that questions are being asked this evening, and I know that the party's national executive, of which I am a member, will be expecting, you know, a full account of exactly how that was allowed to happen. I know that there are discussions going on with the security staff at conference as well. Look, you know, as a member of Parliament, as I was watching that unfold, you know, it was incredibly worrying. And you're right, those 30 seconds or so that it took for security to get up on stage, they felt like they lasted almost 30 minutes, frankly. But as I say, look at how Keir dealt with it. You know, he stayed calm. He held his nerve. He reacted exactly as we could have wished for in, you know, circumstances that were obviously deeply unpleasant for him personally. I'm sure those questions are being asked. I know they're being asked. We will have answers. We will make sure that can never happen again.
Let's talk about the content of the speech, shall we? We don't want to be overshadowed, of course, by the protester. It felt like there was a strong narrative about the state of Britain, but it was quite light on policies, right?
So I think that's actually quite ungenerous, if I'm honest. I mean, look, you know, Keir, what was he doing in that speech? He set out a long-term plan to get our country its future back and to put us on a trajectory of national renewal over the course of a decade, making no apologies for the fact that we are thinking and talking about long-term solutions, because the challenges our country has, these are not things that you can put right overnight. And an incoming Labour government, if we are lucky enough to win that next general election, have the chance to serve our country, we're not going to be able to wave a magic wand and make everything all right immediately, because the economic inheritance that would be left by this Tory government, it's poor. I mean, they've crashed the economy. Everybody's paying more as a result of it. So there is going to be less money around.
So do you think people might be a bit disappointed?
No,
because you know, as you say, whoever wins the next election, you're going to have these same economic...
Think about the scale of that national renewal, because even with all of these constraints, there are things that Keir set out today in his speech that an incoming Labour government would be able to do straight away. 13,000 police officers in our streets. You know, neighbourhoods are going to have neighbourhood policing again. People will see that difference as soon as a Labour government is elected. So practical things that we can do straight away to start easing some of the pressures in our communities across the whole of the country. And then a really huge statement of intent on house building. You know, one of the single biggest ways that we can unlock economic growth in our country, but also help people in our country realise that dream of home ownership. I mean, he makes no apology for the fact that's a long-term programme. But, you know, for a generation, we have not built enough homes in our country. It's going to need a Prime Minister and a government that's going to roll their sleeves up, do the hard slog, the knotty bits of government delivery, and get the job done.
What I guess the Conservatives would say to this is, you know, if you are so committed to house building and say, look, this is the one thing we want to do, why would you not be supporting measures that they brought in, like such as, for example, watering down some of the environmental rules around house building that would actually get house building, you know, up?
We refuse to accept that, you know, you can either have watered down environmental rules or housing. You know,
so you're pro-cake and eating it?
Well, no, listen, we believe that it's possible to set our country on a road where we can deliver 1.5 million homes over a period of 5 years, and that those homes are net zero compliant. They are homes that people want to live in. They are communities that people want to be in, and that they have all of the social infrastructure around them that supports a community. Too many developments in our country are not where people want to live, of a kind of housing that people don't want to access. So people think that actually, you know, the nation is just full of NIMBYs who want to say no to projects all the time. Actually, much more than that. We have people who want homes in their communities, but not where the developers want to put things, where they want them, and that's what a Labour government would unlock.
I have to say, it's a busy conference. people feel pretty pumped up.
Yeah.
How much money would you put on Labour winning the next election?
Oh, you're talking to a practising Muslim, so I don't do gambling. I can't help you there, I'm afraid.
Right answer,
and I used to be the party's election coordinator, so I can tell you my message to everybody is, and it's exactly what Keir said to them in the hall today, no complacency. You know, we still have a long way to go between now and the general election.
I want to talk to you about Israel now and the war that we've seen between Israel and Hamas. There was a very striking moment, of course, when Keir Starmer spoke about this in his speech, saying he condemns the murder of people in cold blood by the terrorists of Hamas. Labour is saying that Israel has the right to defend itself. What does that mean? How far does that right go?
Well, as our Shadow Foreign Secretary David Lammy has been saying over the last few days, of course, Israel has a right to defend itself, to bring those hostages home, to protect her citizens. That is exactly the same as any other country would be in this same horrific situation.
But how far does that go? Well, everyone would obviously...
We have to be guided by international law. International law requires any response to be proportionate, in line with international law.
Cutting off water, for example, to Gaza, is that proportionate?
Well, look, I mean, I'm not going to get into the specifics there. We know what international law. We know that for international law you have to prioritise the protection of civilians, for example. So we would just call on all leaders to remember that it is important that we act in line with international law. But of course, we also can understand that we are in this situation where live attacks are still taking place as we speak.
Suella Braverman has written to police in the UK, urging them to clamp down on any attempts to use flags, songs or swastikas to harass or intimidate members of the Jewish community. Do you support what she's saying?
Yes, look, we have strong rules in this country about incitement to violence and hate speech, and we do have the right to protest, but there are of course rules about the things that you can say in public and making sure that those are not inflammatory and outside of the law of our land. And it's important that the police apply the law of our land, and that's important to give the British Jewish community some confidence and that we are all across the political spectrum going to take a zero tolerance approach to any anti-Semitism that we might see in the coming days as a result of the protests and also what's been happening.
Would waving a Palestinian flag be a criminal offence?
Well, look, it's all about context, these laws. I don't think it's appropriate for me to start setting out conditions. The police know what the law of our land is. The police know what the law of our land is. Context matters. The context of what is being said matters. That's always going to be the case. But where the police can see a breach of the laws of our land, they should apply the law of our land.
OK, thank you very much, Shabana Mahmood, there for the Labour Party. Good to have you here at conference.